Hi everyone, and welcome to the video description for Project 3, Annotated Bibliography. Throughout this short video, we're going to discuss what exactly an annotated bibliography is and what you will need to do in order to not only complete this assignment, but to make the most of it. All right, so as is standard on our assignment sheets, we have got the due dates listed here. Please keep them in mind. So we've got the rough draft due on the 22nd. Peer review form should be returned by the 27th, and the final draft is due November 3rd. So please do keep those dates in mind, but they should be noted on the calendar and Canvas. Okay, so annotated bibliography. I recognize that with annotated bibs, some students come to 2010 knowing exactly what they should look like, knowing precisely what they should include, the type of tone that would be appropriate, and even the formatting conventions. And other students, this is a completely new experience for them. So if at any point you have questions or would like feedback, please do let me know, because annotated bibliographies can be so incredibly helpful for crafting your own argument as we transition into Project 4. So for the context and goals, when composing and communicating in academia, it's imperative to support your argument with research, findings, and theories of credible sources. To incorporate your primary and secondary resource or sources properly, you will need the ability to summarize the research, articulate its main argument, and place it within the scope of your own work. The goal of this project is to gather credible sources to function as evidence in the argument you present in Project 4. So as I've mentioned throughout the semester, really Projects 2, 3, and 4 are designed to work together. So in Project 2, in the synthesis, you took a problem or an opportunity for improvement that you were interested in learning more about. And you basically said, okay, well, what are some of the other solutions people are suggesting? How does that jive with what I think? Does it change what I think? Does it give me a new way to talk about the solution that I would propose? So you've done a good job really seeing, okay, well, what are the other perspectives out there? What are the other points of views? Also in Project 2, you went through and you situated yourself in the ongoing discussion to say, okay, well, I agreed with this solution or this particular source, while I disagreed with this one, or I would push back against what this solution suggests or what this source argues in their work. And so really, those you could see as, if you're sticking with the same topic, you could see those, that written content as sort of the seeds of your argument that you'll eventually develop in Project 4. Now we are taking Project 3 to say, how can we support that argument? What kind of scholarly academic evidence could we possibly include to basically persuade the reader to think in the way we want them to think, or to perform a certain action, or to accept a certain idea or belief? So with the annotated bibliography, it's really your opportunity to say, here are the sources that I would like to include in Project 4 that I think are really going to help me develop my argument. And here is me basically saying not only what is it about, but how it's relevant to what I'm doing. So with the assignment description, you're going to compose an annotated bibliography containing 6 to 8 entries of at least 250 words. So I want to say that all entries must discuss scholarly or academic works, not popular ones. You will not receive credit for non-scholarly or popular sources. So recall back to the lectures that we've had regarding source types, ways of accessing scholarly works, how to read scholarly works, and really familiarize yourself with the difference between the two. So for example, while an article from National Geographic might be incredibly informative, it's still considered a popular source and would not count for the annotated bibliography. However, if you found an article in an academic journal, even if it's on the same topic, but say on, cellular microbiology technology, whatever the journal happens to be titled, you could use that, for Project 3, and that would be far more appropriate than, let's say, National Geographic. So make sure that you're familiar with the difference between scholarly and popular sources. And as always, if you have any questions or would like feedback, if you're really unsure, please reach out to me on Canvas. We can have a good chat about it. We can take a look at the sources you're thinking about to really determine if they would be an appropriate fit for Project 3 and later Project 4. In each annotation that you do, you will need to include a few things. So first off, you will need a works cited or reference entry citation for each. And we'll look at what that means here in just a second. Now, because different disciplines and different audiences value different citation styles, you have some choices. So you can use MLA, APA, or Chicago. I really don't care which. I'm familiar with all three. So what I would recommend is to take a look at the journals that you are wanting perhaps to use for Project 3 and later Project 4 and say, okay, well, in a lot of these articles that I'm citing or would like to cite, they use Chicago or they use MLA, and so perhaps that is most appropriate for the field that I'm writing in, for the audience I'm writing for. But again, it's entirely up to you. If you want to use this as an opportunity to experiment and become familiar with one style guide over another, go for it. After you've included that works cited / references entry, and I use the two terms because with MLA it's a works cited, APA, and sometimes Chicago it's a reference page. So you will see those terms, and sometimes even with Chicago it's referred to as a bibliography. It really just kind of depends, but basically where can I go to get a complete citation of that particular source? In your annotation, once you've cited the piece and included that citation information, you'll then include a summary of the text, including its main arguments and conclusions. And I'd recommend to return to your notes on strategies for summarizing to ensure that you're including appropriate information. Then you'll also need to include a detailed evaluation of the source using the CRAP principles. So I would like you to talk about the currency, the relevance, authority, accuracy, and purpose. Really to say, okay, well, yes, I'm using this piece. Here's why it's credible, and here's where it fits within my own work. So it's going beyond more than just saying, here's what the piece is about, but it's your opportunity to say, hey, here's how it's credible as a source and why I think the audience will accept it as a credible source, but also here's why it's relevant. Here's how I see it supporting my argument, or here's how I see it explaining a certain point or pushing back against a certain idea. One question that I get is how do you go about and format these? So with annotated bibliographies, sometimes they can vary in little ways, but by and large, you'll see a fairly standard formatting practice. So you've got the citations themselves should be double-spaced and have a hanging indent, and I'll show you in just a moment what that looks like. The annotations, so that's going to be the summary of the text and the detailed evaluation, should be written in block format, which means that there is no indent in the paragraph and it is single spaced, not double spaced. Your citation is double spaced with a hanging indent. Your annotation should have no indent and should be single spaced. Also, you'll want to alphabetize all citations by whatever the first word in the citation happens to be. Now, 9 times out of 10, that's going to be the lead author's last name. However, depending on your topic, you may use government documents, court cases, things of that sort that really don't have a traditional author, if you will. So perhaps rather than saying I'm citing, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, maybe, if it doesn't have a specific author like the Supreme Court Justice's name, you could say the Supreme Court of the United States, and that is where you would start with, or that's what you would take into consideration when alphabetizing. So just make sure that all of your entries are in alphabetical order by, again, whatever happens to appear first in the citation. Most of the time it's the lead author's last name, but other times it could be the entity, the organization, or the group who has assembled whatever citation it is you're referencing. Okay, similar to what we've done in the past, there will be a rough draft due. So on or before October 22nd, you will need to submit a rough draft to the appropriate submission folder on Canvas. Your rough draft must include a minimum of 3 entries, but may include more if you have more material prepared. So this will, I think, give both myself and your peers a sense of consistently, where your strengths are, and if there are any areas in which you could keep a close eye on throughout your composition and revision processes. Usually 3 entries is a fair number to gauge that. But of course, if you have all 6 to 8 done and would like feedback on all 6 to 8 from both myself and your peers, please feel free to include that. So, if you submit your draft on time, remember that you will have 2 peers to provide feedback for, and those forms should be returned to your peers by 11:59 p.m. on Sunday, October 27th. So keep that date in mind as well. Your final draft submission, and remember you're going to include the 2 peer review forms that you did for your peers. So you'll submit that to the appropriate assignment submission folder on Canvas before 11:59 p.m. on Sunday, November 3rd. This project is worth a total of 150 points, and you can find the detailed grading rubric here. So really quickly, let's take a look at what an annotated bibliography entry might look like. So right now I am on the Purdue OWL webpage. There are a few differences that I would like to point out between what they have and what I'm asking you to do. But this can be great. The Purdue OWL has a number of wonderful resources when it comes to citing sources and annotating them. So if you haven't checked out the Purdue OWL either for this class or another class already, I would strongly encourage you to do so. I mean, even not just for this project, but for writing in general, they have fantastic resources that can really, I think, help writers at all levels. It's fantastic. So anywho, let's look at some of these entries here. So this is a sample MLA annotation. So you can see here we have got the citation. We have last name, first name of the author. We have the book. We have the publisher and the year of publication. So we can see here that this is indented. This will have a hanging indent, and I'll show what that looks like on the APA citation. But you can see here that they're using block formatting, aside from the fact that it's not single space, and that might just be how this appears on the screen. But you would just want to make sure that this content is single space. But you can see that the first line of each paragraph is not indented. That is correct. You'll want to make sure you do that in your own work. Do not indent with your annotation. And you can break these up into 2 separate paragraphs of the summary and your CRAP principle assessment. But yeah, you'd single space it, no indents, and that's what the annotation will look like. And it will immediately follow the citation itself. So if we go down here to APA, they have a really good example of what a hanging indent looks like. So we have the last name and the first initial of the author, the year of publication, the name of publication, the city, the state, and the, my apologies on that, and the publication company. So you can see here with this citation that the word company is actually, looks like it's indented underneath the last name of the author here. This is what a hanging indent looks like. So it's sort of a flip of traditional indenting practices with paragraphs. But ultimately, this is what you want to do, and they are correct to have it double spaced. So keep that in mind. That's what a hanging indent looks like. You'll also want to double space it. And then afterwards, like what we saw with the MLA or the MLA entry, We follow it with the summary, and for this class, we're also going to do an evaluation of the source, and we are not going to indent our paragraphs, and we're going to use single spacing. Again, that's more of a technical professional writing format called block formatting. And as you start to do more and more of these and you get closer to that 6 to 8 entries category, you'll also want to make sure that your entries are alphabetized. So if there was someone with the last name of C that you also were including, obviously that would be listed before this entry here with the E last name. And if their last name started with S, then it would obviously go after. So essentially, that is what you are going to do for Project 3. Like I said, you can take this as an opportunity to really think through how you want to present and support your argument for Project 4. So if you were to make an argument on how to solve a real problem in the community, what would that argument be, and how would you convince your audience to think the way you want them to think, or to perform an action that you think would be best? So start thinking of that and allow that to sort of guide how you develop Project 3 through the sources that you select and the ways in which you see those sources fitting into your own original work. All right, folks, so if you have any questions or if there's anything on this assignment sheet that I can clarify or to speak further to, do not hesitate to contact me on Canvas. I'm happy to help. All right, folks, until next time.